Hey friend, and welcome back to the Alex Makes VR podcast. In today's episode, I jumped on the phone with my good friend Tom, who runs the Immersive Wire newsletter. Now, if you're not subscribed to this newsletter, it is basically the go-to source for industry news in VR and AR. Everything, every single week on a Wednesday, that's what I'm doing. I'm having my coffee and I'm reading about what's going on in the VR and AR industry. It's the quickest way to get an overview of what are some of the big news stories, and he makes it funny, witty, but also super digestible, short and sweet. You can pick and choose kind of the things that you want to follow up and learn more about. It's really, I couldn't recommend it highly enough. So go and subscribe to that if you're not already. I've left a link in the description of the show notes, but you can always just go to virtualperceptions.com. So in this episode with Tom, we didn't really have a plan, really. Tom and we kind of have a great back and forth on WhatsApp all the time about industry news. We're both equally as passionate and invested in the VR industry and the success of it. But we also love a good kind of natter about what we think maybe the industry could be doing better. And we've always got some hot takes on the latest VR news. So in this episode, we talk about how Facebook's reporting of their earnings in terms of the sales of Oculus Quest 2 potentially could be quite misleading or damaging to the industry. We also talk about what all of those new Oculus Quest users could mean for the industry. Who are these people? We theorize about what that future might look like as we start to get more and more people into the ecosystem, but also what Facebook and what the industry might need in order to help us grow. All of that and so much more coming up. So enjoy this conversation with Tom Fiske.
Basically, Facebook's done the Q4 2020 and they reported how much money they made. Most of this comes from their ad revenue, but they have this other category. And this other category contains how well they've been selling the Oculus Quest 2. And they found that this quarter in 2020 made about $885 million. Up from $346 million in Q4 2019. So that's an increase of about 156% year on year. And Zuckerberg said they had about 5 times more pre-orders than the previous Quest. So what this tells us is Facebook is doing about 150% better than they were doing last year when the Oculus Quest 1 was being sold. But what this also tells us is the stats also include the sales of their portal products. So not all of it is because of the Quest 2, it's also other parts of their business lumped together. So, I mean, just like... So go on.
Sorry, they don't kind of break it down and say what portion of that is coming from like Facebook Reality Labs?
Well, no, unfortunately. So in their reporting, they don't actually say how much money Facebook Reality Labs does. They only just have this nebulous other category, which includes their hardware business. So it's not the most helpful. But face value, what do you think of those statistics?
Well, I mean, it's difficult. It's difficult to say, really. It's funny because obviously, as a statistic, it sounds really promising. And to me, as someone that's interested in getting as many new people into VR as possible, it sounds great that they're doing, five times better than the original Quest, and they're up 100% and Facebook's earning more money because, Tom, like they were really struggling and they really needed that extra 500 odd million. Like,
Yeah, I mean, Oculus was such a...
do our bit.
No, exactly. I mean, like Oculus is such a peppy startup. It really needed all the love it could have gotten,
Exactly. Championing the underdog and all that jazz. But so I guess from my point of view, I see it as encouraging, but I also am so cautious because, I mean, I don't necessarily think, that it's a good thing that Facebook are monopolizing the hardware and thus the ecosystem around at-home VR use.
Mm-hmm.
But also to someone like me who is not producing VR games, and to the people listening to this podcast who I would imagine mostly are in the enterprise space, those stats just mean, great, they're slightly more interested, slightly more people will know what VR is, which helps our case, I guess. If you go in to speak to a new company, chances are, the CEO or the sales director you're talking to might have had some contact with it if let's say their kid got it for Christmas, or they got it themselves for Christmas or whatever. But I don't know, what's your kind of take on those stats?
I mean, my take on the stats is that it's just unhelpful to know how much the Oculus Quest 2 actually sold and how much of it's actually Oculus Quest 2. Because bear in mind also, people are stuck at home using portal plugs to call their friends and family. That would have had a boost in sales as well, which would have been significant.
Yeah.
So I do have to wonder how much of it is Oculus. And also it hides how much investment they're getting from other parts of the company. So how much money is Facebook Reality Labs making from just people diverging the money from Facebook's ad sector towards their hardware business? Because I'm pretty much guaranteed that Facebook Reality Labs must be losing money, or at the very least lost a lot of money over the last 1 or 2 years. Would you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. It feels like, especially with the stuff that they're doing around, the R&D around hand tracking, or the Project Aria with the AR glasses and stuff. It's like there's no way that they're profitable. But I guess that's not necessarily their aim at this point. Their aim is to get it into as many hands as possible. Yeah, I don't know. Do you think that they kind of put those stats out there to try and almost, a bit like what we're seeing with the stock market, it's kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy. You say, wow, VR is, 5 times as well sold this year as it was last year. People are getting involved, which then makes people like, oh, FOMO, I should be getting into that. I need to look at this Quest thing. Do you think it's like a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy if they make it out as if, yeah, we're doing so much better, things are really picking up, we're having exponential growth? Does that then make the market respond and go, oh, okay, we should pay attention to that because that is increasing?
Well, 100%. It's a marketing technique by just going, oh, we had 5 times more pre-orders, or we had our best quarter ever. It's all social proof stuff to make them seem more stable in a position as they would be previously. But again, no hard numbers. There's no hard numbers of anything they're doing per segment. But I completely agree with you. It is exactly like that. And I just wanted to point out those numbers because I found them quite interesting. And yeah.
Yeah, no, I think it's always interesting to look at that stuff, and it's always interesting, similar to Apple, how they're very shady, and Netflix, and all of these new big tech startups. They are really shady, and they won't give us the actual stats, right? It's not like they're telling us what the monthly active user base on Oculus is, right?
No,
does those stats exist?
No, they don't exist yet.
Which that would be more helpful, because then it would be like, okay, say for example, we know a certain, I don't know, let's put a number on it, 500,000 active monthly users. At least then you've got a chance to build a business case. You can go to an investor and say, I'm going to create this game and I'm going to put it on this store where we know for certain there are 500,000 active users. Even if we could capture 10%, 1% of that, this would translate to this much, instead of, which is what it is at the moment, is developers having a complete shot in the dark. And then it is, though, isn't it? It's kind of like, well, we have no idea what kind of...
And there's no transparency about why, if you fail or not as well, which is such an issue for creatives.
Yeah, and it's funny because I wonder, the only real way, I guess, to get those kind of stats would be if game studios or creators who are uploading stuff to the store were transparent in their sales. I don't know. Do you know anything about, have you heard any stats around how well Half-Life sold? I know that there was some stats around the new Walking Dead VR experience.
There was actually. So Steam unveiled how the growth of their VR segment, and it grew by 70-something%, 34% of which was the sales of Half-Life Alyx. So basically you had So basically, for Steam VR, you had all the sales of the VR games, like 34%, and then on top of that, you have the sales of Half-Life Alyx that made an extra 30%, which is bonkers. Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing.
So Half-Life, popular IPs, they help to sell, and yeah, and I completely agree with you that when it comes to having a more open store, it does help with creatives getting some of that money at the very least. I mean, Facebook's looking into it. They're working closely with SideQuest to potentially do a more open store for their Oculus titles. We'll have to see.
Oh, that's
Yes,
interesting.
so we have to. If that does happen, that's amazing because it would be wonderful to have a more open store to buy less curated titles. By all means, keep the curated store with like the top level titles, but let's open side quest as it were, where maybe Oculus gets a cut of the sales, but ultimately it's more free for people to submit their titles.
Yeah, because I mean, admittedly, it's been ages since I've actually gone on there as a consumer and looked at what's even available on the Quest store. And I personally haven't bought the Quest 2. I did like a giveaway of a Quest 2 to my audience, but I didn't actually buy one myself. Have you got one?
I do. I need to give it back to Facebook next week, though. It's a bit of a shame because there's a review copy. So.
And how have you found it? How, tell me a bit about how you found the experience
It's
using
just
it.
like the Quest 1, but better screen, tracking's really good, and I have I feel really basic because it's the Oculus Quest 2 and it just works really well. I have nothing to complain about.
Yeah. And what was there noticeably any more kind of, I don't know, interesting content on there, or is it basically the same as the normal Quest?
It's the same, but it just runs things slightly better as well because it's got a slightly better architecture. But again, what interests me personally as someone who follows the industry is how many more people are using it. So to give an example, 90% of the people who bought the original Oculus Quest were new to VR, and I have to wonder how many people will be new to VR for Oculus Quest 2. It's less the hardware, it's just how many new people are jumping into the VR boat. And if there's anything like Oculus Quest,
Yes.
that'd be great for everyone, basically.
It's funny, around Christmas time, my friend told me that she saw Lily Allen had bought her 2 daughters Oculus Quest 2s for Christmas. And I was like, that is awesome. Anecdotally, that is brilliant to hear, because obviously that's not really something that you would necessarily hear of in the industry, and why would you? But just anecdotally hearing that through social circles is really interesting, because like you say, like, who are these people that have bought it? Is this their first time? Were they, what about it made Lily Allen go, oh yeah, I'm going to buy that for my kids?
Yeah, exactly.
Is it because, was it because she saw Beat Saber, or they'd seen that on, the Jimmy Fallon show? Or was it because she's interested in the hardware itself and the possibilities of it? Was it some kind of like article she might have read about VR for education and like the possibilities in that side of things? It would be really interesting to know those people that have got it. Was it result of, a brilliant marketing campaign? Because I mean, I feel like we're kind of not exactly the target audience for Oculus's marketing campaign, but it'd be really interesting to know how those people came to hear about it and what they're using it for now.
No, yeah, I'm wondering what Lily Allen would be buying. I can't imagine her picking up a copy of Gorn and punching people in the face. Let's put it like that. So I can't imagine that. But we do have a clue about what kinds of games people might be playing. So Andreas, who's like the head of marketing of Fast Travel Games, they have 2 VR titles. One is a kid-friendly title called The Tourist Tale of the Stolen Pets, and the other one's a more hardcore title called Apex. Now, when the Oculus Quest 2 launched, about 8 weeks after the launch, the more child-friendly title was outselling the more hardcore gaming title. And what Andreas interpreted from that was, okay, so that means there's more families using the Oculus Quest 2 currently, at least post-launch.
That is interesting. That's because that to me is quite encouraging, especially because traditionally we've seen a lot of cynicism around children and VR. We've, obviously when the headsets were first out, rightly so, there was a lot of controversy around what the age limit should be and why that age limit was set. And so that's really interesting to think that actually that demographic, the slightly younger demographic, Gen Z and younger, might potentially be the new audience that we're catering for. And actually, I would find that really inspiring because, again, one of the missions I would say that I feel like I and so many of my fellow creators are on is inspiring that next generation to get into this space. So that would be really cool if they were being exposed to this tech at such a young age.
Of course, I completely agree with that, and I just can't wait to see what kids draw towards. And the title's doing really well as well. There's about 60 Oculus Quest titles that surpassed $1 million in revenue now, which is a lot. And of course, we got and all the ones which are obviously going to be featured on the front page of the Oculus Quest store, again showing how powerful that store is for most people. I have to wonder what would kids like to play. I think they'll just maybe play hide and seek games. I reckon. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, well, I don't. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because I think I remember the first time I went into, I believe it was Rec Room, or it might have been Alt Space, one of those where just in the lobby there was just like a basketball hoop that you throw basketballs into. And I remember just spending a good 10, 15 minutes just playing that because I thought it was really fun. And I just think that kind of thing, it wouldn't surprise me if that would be quite appealing. Just simple little active, just activities like that. But also, I wonder whether these, I mean, I'm personally not a gamer, so I don't know too much about it, but I know that Animal Crossing, like open world where people can build their own environments, like
I
the
can see
new
Animal
generation's
Crossing
version of Sims.
doing super well. You're right. So I can see Animal Crossing.
But let's steer the conversation away from gaming, because I know that gaming obviously does drive the consumer market, but I'm intrigued to hear your thoughts on like the enterprise side of things. And do you think, like, is there any indication from Facebook that you've seen, or any other stats that you've seen around acceleration in enterprise use? Like, does the new hardware encourage more people into that space as well? Like, what's your general thoughts on where that's at the moment?
It's a good question. Well, there's some general stats where immersive technologies will likely make a lot of money over the next decade. It's harder to know short-term shifts. On the Facebook side, all we know from Facebook is an interview they did about 2 weeks ago, where they want to focus more on the virtual office, where providing virtual services for companies who want to collaborate together in a more corporate setting. And that's what they're building up. And I think they're planning releasing content like that this year. Perhaps a year too late, considering the pandemic is hopefully going to be okay later this year. We'll see. But we'll see what they actually unveil. HTC's been way quicker. They unveiled their corporate suite last year, and I had a meeting with Meet in VR this morning, actually, just talking about people just wanting to set a presence while talking, which is, I get, because it is different from Zoom and the like. You just kind of want to sit around and wave your hand and say hello more physically sometimes.
Yeah.
I get that.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? Because I put something on my Instagram the other day about the fact that I am actually turning down video meetings at the moment because I find them so draining. I'd much prefer to do an audio call, just because, I mean, there's certain things that obviously I would do in video, like when I do virtual talks and meetings where they're being recorded or anything like that. If someone really, really wants to see my face, I'm not going to deprive them of that. But in general, most of the time I'm finding being on Zoom takes so much effort. And someone replied, in fact, it was Damien from, the founder of Blend. And he was suggesting that he's been taking meetings actually in Meet VR. And I was quite intrigued by that, because I guess it's something that I shouldn't be surprised by, because yeah, that makes sense. I mean, not a lot of the people that I would speak to on a day to day would have the hardware to be able to do that. But if you were having meetings and you knew that the other person had a VR headset, I feel like actually, yeah, I probably would prefer to put a headset on, be an avatar version of myself, and actually get to kind of like look at the other person, be in a physical space together rather than just, look at them and not look at the camera and have it glitch out, and the kind of all of the stuff that comes along with like a Zoom or a video call. But what about you? Would you take meetings in VR?
Well, if I'm honest, I quite like to. I don't mind popping on Zoom while working on the computer. It's just so much easier, and the easier it is for people in VR to do something like that, then the more likely it's to pick up. It's not going to be for everyone. I still think the technology is going to be more for engineers who need to work with a 3D model in front of them, and then they can work around that table to work out what's happening with all of that. But no, I don't think it's for everyone. Like, why would a writer want to work in virtual reality when they can pop on Zoom to collaborate? They won't need to, and so
Yeah,
yeah,
totally.
and nor would you want to because it's just a hassle. So yeah, it's going to be very particular about who's going to do this, that, and the other.
Yeah, it's funny to kind of try and think about where to put focus in terms of the enterprise space at the moment. I mean, my priority and what I'm kind of observing is that still training and I mean, collaboration is not really something that I focus on, but I guess, yeah, like you're saying, remote collaboration where you need to be designing in the same space or there's a reason to be embodying the same environment, um, are quite good. But I'm curious, someone asked me the other day, how's best to make money with VR at the moment? And I'm curious what your answer would be to that.
Go to AR.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, it's too
Yeah, it
true.
is.
It hits
It
too real. It's too real.
feels a bit real. It's only because you could then work with agencies and marketing campaigns and earn money in that way. With VR, you could build a game and you could sell relatively well depending on what the type of game is. You could go into enterprise VR and make stacks working for enterprise clients. So I would actually, if that's funny, that would be my answer. But
Do you think?
go on.
Oh
Oh no,
yeah,
you
carry
go
on.
on, go on.
I was going to say, do you think from like a product and a service point of view that you're better off from a um 3D kind of real time rendering, some kind of interactive stuff? Like, do you feel like that is at the moment the priority for enterprise clients? Like building bespoke, I don't know, recreations of a manufacturing product line that people can train on or something, rather than the event space or soft skills training? Or do you feel like there is kind of opportunities across the board
No,
in terms of
don't get
VR
me wrong. There
products
are
and services?
opportunities across the board. They do exist on soft skills, on training in like very intricate settings. Events are interesting because I do fully expect future events to have a virtual and physical component from now on, simply because it increases their revenue. So there's no losses in that way. But
Mm,
uh, I just think, but the big barrier is skills because not everyone has the skills to build VR experiences currently. It's a fast growing area. There are people developing skills quite quickly, but there
yeah.
are yes, they are doubling down to see if they can grow as quick as they can. And there are boot camps that can help you. Pick your boot camp carefully. Some are more helpful than others, but yes, you can build your skills somehow.
Ooh, there's a story
Yes,
there.
there is. But anyway, but
For offline, maybe. Yeah. Um,
absolutely.
yeah. Do you think? Well, I feel that's the kind of beautiful thing about this space, though, is it is very much you will learn this by going on like a hackathon or teaching yourself by watching an online course or doing a boot camp or whatever, rather than, oh, go and learn do 3 years at a university 3D modeling. It's not that kind of space. Actually,
No,
the way to get into it and the way to think is to be scrappy, get in there, just like make as you
currently.
go kind of thing. I wish that I had the appetite to retrain in the AR stuff, because I kind of agree with you. I feel like right now the opportunities and the attention is very much on AR, and as it should be, kind of with it's the widest accessible marketplace, I guess, especially with the likes of Instagram and TikTok and Fortnite and all of that jazz coming up with these kind of more immersive AR interactive kind of experiences. But yeah, I just can't be bothered, to be honest, Tom.
Yeah, I can't be bothered as well. I mean, that's us though. There will be some young people who
Yeah.
are super driven and want to go into it, but ultimately, it's only because VR is such a new industry that's become scrappy like this. Over time, there will be a set of standards and courses that will help out. There's the UCL who does a master's in virtual reality, for example, and that will be helpful for them.
That's it. Yeah, that is interesting. And I know that there's Story Futures Academy that do their own
They do.
training, and there's lots of different organizations that do bits and bobs. And yeah, I mean, I hope that by doing the podcast and by getting this news out, hopefully we're providing kind of more interest and giving people hope to go ahead, and if they have the passion for it, to investigate that
Hmm.
and go down those rabbit holes and do what we won't do. Go forth, my pretties, and flourish.
Yeah, go forward, flourish. See, I mean, I hope for the best. Get training where you can. Make sure you're paid for your training. God, do not take an unpaid internship. Don't support that. But do what you can to grow where you can as well.
Lovely. Well, listen, I feel like we went into this just winging it
Yeah,
off the back of off some interesting stats that we were going to discuss, and maybe we'll do some more of these episodes. I love kind of touching in with you, Tom, because you've got a real pulse on the industry at large because of your massively popular newsletter, which is the perfect segue for you to plug right here. Anyone
I
that's
hope.
not
Yes,
subscribed.
I hope it's okay for me to plug. If you go Google and type in Immersive Wire newsletter, you come across a website where you can sign up for a weekly digest of all the VR and AR news that matters, sent out every Wednesday. So just Google Immersive Wire newsletter and you can find me. Also thank you for letting me join this podcast, because I do quite enjoy talking about this, and I get quite passionate about it, as you well know, and it's quite nice. And it's quite nice
Yeah.
to collaborate
Well,
on it.
yeah, I love that. And that's the thing. I feel like I want people to know that even when we're kind of even when we're ragging on it and just kind of dissecting it, it's all from a place
Yeah,
of
yeah.
the fact that we both are incredibly passionate about this industry succeeding. And that's the thing. I think I've come to terms with the fact that I absolutely, and I'm sure you're the same, Tom, absolutely believe in this tech. And I just think that it's going to be a marathon rather than a sprint. So I'm cautious not to kind of burn myself out by being like all over everything at all times. Like, but I'm sure you're the same, right?
No, I mean, yep, I'm exactly the same. And all my criticisms and all my comments come from a place of goodwill, because it's one of those things where I've been following for a few years. I see certain recurrent patterns, and I've built my own opinions on certain matters. But they are truly opinions. You do not need to take what I say to heart, and it all come from a good place. Yeah.
What is it? Is it Tim Minchin who says opinions are like arseholes?
Oh my gosh.
Everyone's got one. Everyone's got one.
Yeah.
But I would suggest that yours is regularly and thoroughly checked.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. Do make sure you own a check all the time. But one more.
Yeah.
This is such a tangent. But what I'm going to do after this call is I'm going to follow up what's happening on GameStop, because there's just another update in the GameStop story. It just does not stop. Yeah.
I'm sure that there's probably a crossover of people listening to this that are
Oh,
probably following that
100%.
story,
Yeah.
which For those who don't, though, give us a quick overview of what this is, which is, by the way, totally unrelated to VR. So if you were here for the VR chat, this is where you can close out. But yeah, go on. Give us an overview of what's happened so far, and then give me the update, because I'm invested in this
Of
story.
course, yeah. So just to say, as Alex said,
Literally,
podcast is over. Tangent starts here. Let's go. So GameStop. What's happened is a bunch of people in Reddit basically decide to go against what a lot of hedge funds are doing, where they were shorting all their stocks. So just in layman's terms, financially, I'm just going to summarize like a sentence. Hedge funds were betting that X would happen. To stop X from happening, people from Reddit decided, you know what? Let's do Y. And by doing Y, it made hedge funds trapped, and they couldn't do X. Therefore, they lost out in billions of dollars, and they're losing a lot of money. And then and it just shows that, people in Reddit can literally really hamper people's lives in hedge funds if they really wanted to.
This makes me so happy, because it's just, I was having this conversation with my older brother, because me and him are both very much into the whole stock trading and cryptocurrency and just keeping a general eye on the kind of finance space. And we were chatting about the fact that neither of us really want to get invested into like proper kind of like stocks, the classic like index funds or anything at the moment, because we're in like this perceived bubble. But at the same time, what we're learning from this GameStop story is that we're actually just in this new generation of trading, where actually the power is with the people. It's no longer just this handful of hedge fund people that are controlling the stock market. It's the person that's downloaded Robinhood or Trading 212 or Free Trade or whatever. We have as much power. And like you say, communities like Reddit are showing that they are a force to be reckoned with. And obviously, I feel like there is so much to be said for that, in terms of what that can say for a technology like VR and AR as well. It like just takes one community to set the internet on fire, and then for the traditional press to go, oh shit, we need to follow up on that story. We need to like push that story, and then that gets behind it, and then that stokes the fire, and then that continues, and all of a sudden you have this viral moment which puts it in the spotlight and becomes the kind of the thing that causes the change, right? Causes the black swan event.
Yeah, I completely agree. And that's such a fascinating allegory, because it's so true. These things are recurrent. Wouldn't you say they're recurrent? They just happen every once in a while. And the only comment I quickly want to make is the update to the story is Robinhood has stopped trading with GameStop stocks. So people just can't play the system. And this just happened a couple of minutes ago. So that's the only update.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Can they do that though? Because surely it's meant to be like an open...
No, stocks are open.
Trading.
No, don't get me wrong. Stocks are open. There's just the app called Robinhood.
The app itself?
Yeah, there's an app which helps you buy stocks. And it's a very popular app called Robinhood. And they just stopped trading with GameStop stocks for now. So that's the update. Because they're like, you know what, we're done. Like, it's a bit strange.
We don't, but I feel like that's a massive mistake on their part, because wow, that's going to piss off so many of their users who are, invested in this, which obviously they've done it for a reason, and with the kind of they're trying to safeguard their users to not lose money on this kind of very volatile situation. But at the same time, like, that's shouldn't really be their decision to make. So I wouldn't be surprised if those users flock to other apps now.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised either. They just flip to another one, and I completely agree with you. It's. I just find, as you say, it's an interesting story, because it just shows how people on the internet can just do this, and the whole world goes, okay, and it just catches everyone by surprise.
And again, it kind of, just to like relate it, I guess, to the first conversation we were having, it's fascinating that we put so much emphasis on these big companies, on the big giants. We put so much emphasis on them being the ones to control the destiny of industries and of trends. But actually, that's bullshit. Like, we have the power, like the person, the community, the internet has the power. That's what that's given us, is the ability to make things happen. And that's actually really quite encouraging.
It is encouraging.
I think
it's encouraging that people can, if they really want to do something, they can do it. If they really want to evaluate a stock, they can just go for it, as you say.
If you want to, make sure that these hedge fund billionaires that have caused, excessive growth of, isn't it crazy? I was reading this stat the other day that billionaires have added, I can't remember it was a disgusting percentage to their wealth during the pandemic, whilst the average kind of person has obviously lost out, and you've got more people than ever on unemployment benefits and are on welfare, and yet billionaires have like added so much because of this situation. And it's just I don't know where I was going with that, but it kind of reminds me of that, of like the little guy being like, do you know what, fuck you.
Yeah, I saw a great tweet about it going, oh no, we're really pissing off people who might need to sell one of their multiple boats. That's a shame, isn't it?
Yeah. I can't wait to see The Big Short remade specifically about this, and it's just featuring a load of like cool Reddit bros that are just like
I mean, they're far from cool. These are people who go on like Wall Street bets and then just decide to like spend $1,000 of their own money just to piss people off. Like they're not like normal people.
Yeah, the ultimate trolls.
They are the ultimate trolls. But you know what? It makes for a great financial story, and just following it is just been fascinating.
Yeah, definitely. Well, that was a beautiful little side tangent. Do you know what? I feel like we should start another podcast just all about just whatever we want to talk about, basically, because I could go on another rant about cryptocurrency and blockchain right now, but alas, we shall cut this here at 35 mins. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast, Tom. And yeah, I'm sure this won't be the last time that the listeners can hear from you. Reach out to us. Let us know what you thought of the episode. Let us know what you think on these particular subjects. Are statistics like the ones that Facebook shared interesting and important for our industry? What else do we talk about, Tom? I've already forgotten.
We also talked about who's been playing on Oculus Quest 2s. We've been talking about other matters, like why people like Lily Adams would be playing it. And we also discussed stocks. Action packed.
Reach out and tell us how much you lost on trying to game the GameStop system. Thank you so much again, Tom, and I'll speak to you soon. Everyone. So that is the end of this episode. If you made it this far, congratulations. I know we went on a slight tangent towards the end there, but I hope that you enjoyed that conversation with Tom. And let me know, reach out on social media and let me know what you thought of all of the topics that we discussed. And let me know if you want me to do future episodes with Tom. I'm sure that he will be more than happy to come back to the Alex Makes VR podcast. You can reach out to me on social media. It's just Alex Makes VR on all of the social medias. If you're new around here, if this is your first time listening to this podcast, hello, it's great to meet you. I would love to ask you to consider to subscribe to the podcast. And also, if you're interested in getting some of the key takeaways from my main episodes about creating a career or a business that you love in the virtual reality industry, you can sign up to my newsletter. I send out newsletters every single Monday morning, giving you an overview of the key takeaways from the episode and alerting you to when they go live. So if you want to sign up for that, you can do so at alexmakesvr.com. That's all from me today. Have a great day wherever you are in the world, and I'll speak to you very soon.